Welcome to AppleKnows channel, and today I am not just an apple on your screen, I am your guide into a world of sweetness that hides secrets most people never think about. Everyone loves chocolate, candy, or a slice of cake, but very few realize what lies behind these sweet temptations. Let's start with something that will probably make you look at your favorite candy bar in a completely different way. Did you know that a single Snickers bar contains about 280 calories, which is roughly the same amount of energy as running for half an hour at a moderate pace? And if you eat 2 or 3 in one sitting, you have already reached the caloric intake of an entire meal without even noticing it. Here's something even more surprising. Cotton candy, the fluffy pink cloud you often see at fairs, is made almost entirely of sugar, but one portion contains fewer calories than a can of soda. Around 100 calories for cotton candy compared to more than 140 in a cola. So technically, eating that carnival treat might be less harmful than sipping a soft drink. Shocking, right? Now, let me tell you about chocolate. It has been both praised and demonized for centuries. Dark chocolate, especially the kind with more than 70% cocoa, is actually full of antioxidants that can reduce inflammation and even lower blood pressure. But the milk chocolate most people prefer is loaded with sugar and fat. One standard milk chocolate bar contains about 20 grams of sugar, which is already close to the daily limit recommended by the World Health Organization. You probably never thought that one bar could push you that far. Here's a fact that sounds unbelievable but is absolutely real. In the 19th century, doctors sometimes prescribed chocolate as medicine for people with exhaustion or sadness. But fast forward to today, and scientists warn us about the addictive properties of sugar in chocolate. Studies show sugar lights up the same regions of the brain as certain drugs, which is why people say they are addicted to sweets. It is not just a joke, it is neuroscience. And if you think chewing gum is harmless, let me stop you right there. Some sugar-free gums contain sorbitol, a sugar alcohol that, if consumed in excess, can cause digestive problems and even severe weight loss. There are real medical cases of people chewing large amounts of gum every day and ending up in hospitals because of it. A candy meant to freshen your breath turning into a health risk that is not something you hear every day. Here is another twist. Jelly beans, those colorful little candies that look so innocent, are coated with shellac. Yes, shellac, the same glossy substance once used as furniture polish. It comes from the secretions of insects called lac bugs. You may not taste it, but it is right there on the surface of those shiny candies. And finally, think about gummy bears. They seem playful and harmless, but their chewy texture comes from gelatin, a protein obtained by boiling animal bones, skin, and connective tissue. For vegetarians and vegans, this fact is often shocking because it means those sweet little bears are not plant-based at all. I am Apple, your AppleKnows channel guide, and these are only the beginning of the strange truths hiding in your sweets. Some candies carry surprising benefits, while others hide dangers you would never expect. The world of confectionery is full of secrets that will change the way you look at every piece of sugar you eat. Have you ever seen a lollipop with that bright red coating? That color often comes from carmine, a pigment made from crushed cochineal insects. Yes, that vibrant candy red you love could literally be ground-up bugs. Food industries have used this for centuries, and today it is still considered natural coloring. The truth is, if you enjoy strawberry or cherry candies, you may already have eaten insects without even realizing it. Now let's talk about marshmallows. These fluffy white pillows look harmless, but did you know the original marshmallows were made from the root of a plant called marshmallow? Ancient Egyptians used it as medicine more than 2,000 years ago. Modern marshmallows, however, have nothing natural in common with that plant anymore. They are simply sugar, corn syrup, and gelatin. A small handful can already equal the sugar content of a chocolate bar, yet people often eat them by the dozens around a campfire without even thinking. Here's a calorie shocker: a single slice of New York cheesecake can contain over 400 to 600 calories. That is more than an entire Big Mac from McDonald's. And if you think about portion sizes in modern cafes, some slices go up to 1,000 calories. Imagine eating half your daily energy intake in just one dessert plate. Now, about soda and candy combinations. Did you know that mixing soda with candy like Mentos causes the explosive reaction not because of chemicals but because of surface texture? The tiny pores on the candy rapidly release carbon dioxide bubbles from the soda. This reaction is so powerful that it can launch soda bottles like rockets. While it seems like a party trick, it also demonstrates how unstable some food and drink combos really are. And here is something that makes dentists shiver. Sticky candies like caramel or toffee are not just bad because of sugar, but because they glue themselves onto your teeth for hours. This constant contact creates the perfect environment for bacteria to feed and release acid, which destroys enamel. Dentists even have a name for it, the candy effect. Surprisingly, a chocolate bar, which melts quickly, may be less harmful than one piece of chewy caramel stuck to your molars all afternoon. Let's add a fact that almost nobody expects. White chocolate is not technically chocolate at all. It contains no cocoa solids, only cocoa butter, sugar, and milk. In other words, what people call white chocolate is more like sweet fat than actual chocolate. Yet the confectionery industry still markets it as a luxury product. And here is one more unbelievable truth. The largest chocolate bar ever made weighed over 12,000 pounds, created in the United Kingdom in 2011. That is the size of an elephant made of pure chocolate. Imagine the calorie count of that single bar. It would be enough to feed thousands of people for weeks. I am Apple, and you are still with AppleKnows channel. The deeper we go into the sweet world, the stranger it gets. Candy and desserts hide stories of history, science, and shocking truths that most people never hear. Let's start with something you probably never thought about: chocolate chips and cookies. A single chocolate chip cookie can have anywhere from 50 to 80 calories, which seems small until you realize most people never eat just one. A handful of cookies could easily match the calories in a fast food burger. And here's the kicker: studies have shown that the smell of freshly baked cookies is designed to trigger dopamine in the brain, making it almost impossible to stop at just one. Bakeries know this, and they literally use it as a marketing strategy. Now, about ice cream. That smooth texture you love often comes from a surprising ingredient: beaver secretions. Yes, you heard correctly. A substance called castoreum, derived from the glands of beavers, has been used for years as a vanilla flavoring. While rare today, it still exists in some flavorings labeled as natural vanilla. Most consumers have no idea they might have eaten it at some point. Here's a fact that sounds unreal. In Japan, there is candy that glows in the dark. The effect comes from quinine, the same ingredient found in tonic water, which fluoresces under UV light. So yes, people in Japan actually snack on glowing sweets, and while safe, it still feels like something out of a sci-fi story. Now let's talk about sugar itself. In the 18th century, sugar was so expensive and rare that it was considered a luxury only the wealthy could afford. People displayed sugar sculptures at their dining tables to show off their wealth, almost like a status symbol. Today sugar is everywhere and cheap, yet ironically, it is now one of the leading causes of obesity and diabetes worldwide. A complete reversal of its history. Here's one that might shock parents everywhere. Gummy worms and many brightly colored candies often contain artificial dyes like red 40, yellow 5, and blue 1. These are petroleum-based dyes, the same origin as fuel and plastics. While regulated, some studies have linked them to hyperactivity in children and even potential long-term health risks. Yet they remain a staple in kids' treats across the world. And speaking of hidden ingredients, let me tell you about licorice. Black licorice contains glycyrrhizin, a compound that can actually be toxic in high amounts. Eating too much of it can lead to dangerously low potassium levels, irregular heartbeats, and even hospitalization. In fact, there are documented cases of people who suffered severe health consequences simply from eating black licorice daily. A candy that can act like a drug, that is something most people would never believe. Here's another bizarre truth. Some hard candies like jawbreakers have layers upon layers of sugar coatings, and in extreme cases, one jawbreaker can take days to finish if you never chew it. But did you know there were reports of jawbreakers exploding? Heat exposure, like being left in the sun, can cause the candy's layers to expand and burst. Imagine a sweet treat turning into a tiny sugar bomb. And finally, think about honey. People consider it a natural sweetener, but in ancient times, honey was used not just for food but as a form of preservation. Archaeologists have found pots of honey in Egyptian tombs that are over 3,000 years old and still edible today. Compared to modern candy full of chemicals, honey is a sweetener that can outlive entire civilizations. I am Apple from AppleKnows channel, and the more you learn, the harder it becomes to look at sweets the same way again. Behind every lollipop, cake, or chocolate bar hides a story of history, science, and sometimes even danger. Start with cotton candy again. Did you know it was actually invented by a dentist? Back in 1897, dentist William Morrison teamed up with a confectioner to create what was then called fairy floss. Think about that for a second. A dentist, someone who fights tooth decay, actually brought the world one of the most cavity-inducing treats ever. It's almost ironic, like a fireman selling gasoline. Now let's step into the world of caramel popcorn. A small movie theater bucket can easily exceed 1,200 calories. That's more than most adults need in half a day. Add a soda and a box of candy, and you're at over 2,000 calories in a single movie night. What feels like harmless snacking is actually equivalent to eating a full day's worth of meals while sitting still in a chair. Here's a strange one from history. During World War II, M&Ms were invented specifically for soldiers. The hard candy shell was designed to keep the chocolate from melting in the heat. The slogan "melts in your mouth, not in your hand" comes directly from this military innovation. What started as army rations is now one of the most popular candies in the world. Now let's move to sugar addiction. Scientists have shown in controlled studies that lab rats often prefer sugar over cocaine when given the choice. The brain's reward system lights up even more intensely with sugar. That explains why breaking a sugar habit can cause real withdrawal symptoms like headaches, irritability, and fatigue. For many, quitting sweets is not just about willpower, it's about battling a genuine dependency. And speaking of the brain, here's another fact. Eating sweets triggers the release of dopamine, but too much sugar can dull dopamine receptors over time. That means the more sugar you eat, the less rewarding it feels, so you need more just to get the same pleasure. It's the same cycle seen with substance abuse. Dessert may look innocent, but it can rewire your brain. Here's a cultural twist. In Germany, gummy bears are such a national icon that the company Haribo once sent free gummy bears to German kids on their birthdays. Meanwhile, in some schools today, gummy bears are actually banned because of their sugar content. The same candy that was once celebrated as a national treasure is now considered a public health problem. Let's not forget about chocolate again. White, milk, or dark, all of them require cocoa beans. But did you know that cocoa farming has been linked to child labor and exploitation in some countries? Behind the sweetness lies a bitter truth: millions of children are forced into labor just to keep the global chocolate industry running. Every time we eat a chocolate bar, there's a chance we're connected to that hidden reality. And here's one last shock for now. Energy drinks that taste like candy, those neon-colored cans, often contain more sugar than candy itself. A single can hold up to 60 grams of sugar. That's about 15 teaspoons in one drink. Combine that with caffeine, and you're basically drinking a hypercharged sugar bomb that your body struggles to process. Have you ever wondered why candy bars always seem to be the same size while the price keeps going up? That's not just inflation, it's something called shrinkflation. Manufacturers quietly reduce the size of chocolates and sweets while keeping the price the same. A standard Toblerone bar, for example, has been redesigned with bigger gaps between the chocolate peaks just to save money, yet most buyers didn't notice until it became a scandal. Now here's a fact about sugar itself that is hard to believe. In 2015, researchers discovered that sugar industry lobbyists in the 1960s actually paid scientists to shift the blame for heart disease away from sugar and onto fat. This misinformation shaped decades of dietary advice, making people fear butter and eggs while ignoring the dangers of sugar. In other words, your grandparents may have been misled by candy and sugar corporations themselves. And speaking of health, let's look at donuts. A single glazed donut contains around 200 calories and 10 grams of sugar. But here's the real problem: the combination of sugar and fat in donuts creates what food scientists call a bliss point. This is the exact balance of sweetness and richness that makes your brain crave more. It's engineered addiction. Now here's something most coffee lovers don't know.
The flavored syrups added to coffee drinks like vanilla, caramel, or hazelnut can contain as much sugar as a full-sized candy bar.
A single pumpkin spice latte can easily go over 50 grams of sugar, which is double the daily limit recommended by the World Health Organization.
Drinking one is like sipping liquid candy disguised as coffee. Let's jump to chewing gum again.
Back in the 20th century, Wrigley's chewing gum was promoted as a way to help soldiers stay alert during World War I. But today, gum is one of the most littered items on the planet. Cities spend millions every year cleaning chewed gum off sidewalks, and in some places like Singapore, gum is completely banned. A sweet habit that turned into an environmental nightmare.
Here's a cultural shocker.
In India, there's a dessert called gulab jamun, deep-fried milk solids soaked in sugar syrup. One piece contains around 150 calories, and it's common to eat several at once during festivals. In fact, in just one holiday celebration, a person can consume the equivalent of thousands of calories purely in sweets.
Culture and tradition meet sugar overload. Now let's talk about soda-flavored candy. Did you know some cola-flavored sweets actually contain phosphoric acid, the same chemical used to remove rust?
It gives that tangy bite people associate with cola. The dose is small and safe, but the idea that the same substance used in cleaning products is also inside your candy is enough to make anyone pause.
And here's one that might make you laugh nervously. Skittles, the candy famous for tasting the rainbow, were once produced using a chemical called titanium dioxide, which is also used in paint and sunscreen.
While regulations are changing in some countries, many people have already eaten years' worth of candies with this ingredient.
Imagine snacking on something that could also be in your wall paint.
Start with lollipops. That glossy shine you see on the surface isn't just sugar, it often comes from a coating of wax, including carnauba wax, the same substance used to polish cars and make floors shine.
Imagine licking the same ingredient that's buffed into a showroom vehicle.
It's safe in small amounts, but the mental picture changes how sweet that lollipop feels.
Now let's move to candy corn, the Halloween favorite. Most people don't realize that a single handful contains more sugar than a glazed donut.
And here's the shocking part, candy corn is made with something called confectioner's glaze, which, like jelly beans, is often derived from insects. That glossy, irresistible shine comes with a hidden secret most trick-or-treaters would never guess.
And here's a health twist you won't forget.
Drinking a chocolate milkshake might seem harmless, but some fast food milkshakes contain over 100 grams of sugar. That's equivalent to eating about 25 teaspoons straight from the sugar bowl. To put it into perspective, that's like eating nearly 3 whole chocolate bars just by sipping one drink. Now let's step into history. Did you know sugar was once referred to as white gold? In the 17th century, it was so valuable that entire economies were built on sugar plantations.
But behind this sweetness was something dark, slavery and exploitation. Millions of people were forced into brutal labor just to produce sugar for Europe's growing sweet tooth.
Your favorite candy carries with it centuries of hidden suffering.
Here's something unexpected about artificial sweeteners. Many sugar-free candies replace sugar with substances like aspartame or sucralose.
While they reduce calories, studies show they can still trigger insulin responses in some people and may even confuse the brain, leading to more cravings. In other words, sugar-free doesn't always mean safe or healthy.
Now let's talk about chocolate again, but not the kind you eat. Did you know that the smell of chocolate alone has been proven in experiments to relax the brain and even improve memory?
Bookstores in the UK once tested this by pumping chocolate scent into the air, and they noticed customers spent more time browsing. Candy companies understand this power very well.
Your senses are being manipulated before you even take a bite.
And here's one of the strangest candy facts in the world.
In Iceland, a popular treat is chocolate-covered licorice.
But in some parts of the world, like Mexico, spicy chili is added directly to lollipops.
These unusual flavor combinations may shock outsiders, but they reveal just how far cultures will go to reinvent sweetness. Finally, let's return to the science of sugar.
1 can of soda, or 1 king-sized candy bar, contains about 40 grams of sugar. The human body wasn't designed for this level of intake. Our ancestors ate mostly fruit and natural sources. That means every time you consume modern sweets, you're flooding your system with doses of sugar that are evolutionary strangers to your body.
This is why obesity and diabetes rates have skyrocketed in the last century.
Our biology simply cannot keep up.
This is Apple from AppleKnows channel, and now we've reached the end of our journey through the secret world of sweets.
From candies coated in insect-based shellac to sodas with the power to strip rust, from chocolate once used as medicine to sugar once valued as white gold, we've seen how something as innocent as dessert carries a history of science, culture, health, and even hidden danger. The truth is simple but hard to swallow: sweets bring joy, but they also come with costs we often ignore.
Every lollipop, chocolate bar, or slice of cake is more than just a treat.
It's a story shaped by history, by industries, and by biology itself.
I am Apple, and this has been AppleKnows channel.
Remember, behind every sweet bite, there's always a truth waiting to be uncovered. Stay curious, stay sharp, and the next time you reach for candy, you'll know more than anyone else at the table.